A wise man once said that the history of the world is nothing but the biography of great men. As we mark the Black History Month, we want to pause to remember men and women whose history make that Black history. And without any question, there is no doubt that Malcolm X, his life, his biography, to a large extent, is that history of Black America. Today in our studio, we have the daughter of Malcolm X, Malaak Shabazz. She's an international human rights activist, and in her own right, she's been able to curate a niche for herself and made a name for herself as an activist. Welcome to SaharaTV.
Welcome. I just want to say I'm also Dr. Betty.
That's true. That's true. Daughter.
Next month is Women's Month, so.
That's true. That's true. Let me start by asking you, when we get into February and you hear Black History Month, what does that mean to you and your family, knowing that your father played a role in what is today known as the history of Black people in America? And your mom, too.
Well, yeah, my mother, he and women, they were both. There were sheroes there as well. My mother used to always say, I'll just say that I'm the youngest. My mother was 2 months pregnant with me and my twin sister when it happened. And so there were a lot of women who, Auntie Coretta King would say, you know, when you're with a man like that, whether Medgar Evers and Murray Evers, my father and Dr. Betty, Coretta and Martin, there was a partnership. They understood the struggle of Black people. And we had to educate ourselves on our own history, and we can't argue about why are we being miseducated about this, that, and the other. We have to know our history and re-educate our children. So Black History Month, which started with Carter G. Woodson, was a week and then became a month, is just re-educating ourselves on the greatness of the African diaspora, of not being descendants of slaves, but being descendants of enslaved Africans who uplifted themselves and went back and claimed their history. So it's really important. A lot of other people have the Chinese New Year, the Irish, this, that, and the other, but we also have to reclaim our own history and realize how great Africa was and how we are descendants of that. So even though it's February, I celebrate Black history 365 days a year. That's the way I was raised. It's not just February. That's just a holiday, and then they bunch it into President's Day or weekend or Valentine's and try to dissuade you and kind of just, you know, we get blocked and pushed aside. 365 days a year. If the government were finally going to acknowledge that it's, you know, February, we also have to understand that we have to continue every single day for the rest of our lives because we are proud descendants of African history.
Now, the election of Barack Obama as president, some people say is the beginning of what they call the post-racial America. Do you buy that?
No.
Do you subscribe to that?
No.
And
racism is going to be here no matter what. It changes, it gets very subtle. It becomes institutionalized. It's not so blatant the way it used to be back in the 50s, 60s, and prior. It is still there, but it's global. It's not just black or white. Racism is racism. I'm on the NGO Committee for Human Rights and the co-chair for the Elimination Against Racism. And racism, period, is a global issue that needs to be dealt with, talked about, discussed. But every group that celebrates their own history is a good thing, and they can bring that to the table. But Black history in general, racism will always still be here. It's just begins its another ugly head. For instance, I have friends who, white, black, or Asian, don't want to hear about Africa. They don't want to hear about Congo, but everybody's carrying a piece of Congo in their back pocket when that mineral to make that chip in your cell phone and your camera. So if you don't understand that, that's racism right there. There's some blacks who don't embrace Africa. There are some Asian Americans who don't embrace Asia. But we really have to understand who the shoulders that we stand on, the people who made us feel so comfortable and complacent, in any ethnic group.
Now, Travis Smiley and Kanye West, they form a team that they've been challenging Obama, saying that he has not done enough to alleviate the situation of black people in America. In fact, there's something that Professor West said about Obama. He called him a black mascot of Wall Street oligarchies and a black puppet of corporate America. I'm asking you, what were your expectations when Obama was elected?
Let me just say one thing, because I did campaign for Obama, but Cornel West is a buffoon for Bill Maher. So I would take that with a grain of salt. If you ever see him on all the white talk shows, a lot of people like him, but it's the truth. He has not visited any historical black colleges, and he gets paid very, very well to spew forth his rhetoric. So,
but are you satisfied with how Obama has been performing in terms of what he has done or not done for black America?
He came into a nasty pot of beans. He really did. We were broke. We were borrowing from China, and he came from 2 wars, and they expected him to fix it within like a minute when nobody else was doing that. And then when you say what he inherited, they say stop complaining, but he inherited a hot mess. And they have been fighting him every step of the way. He's the only president who has addressed the Middle East, LGBT, African issues, women's issues, equal rights. But it's not easy because you need a team. Just because you're the president doesn't mean you can just snap your fingers and that's going to happen. That's not true. That's, you need a team. And they've been fighting him every step of the way, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that they gave every melanin-challenged white predecessor of his prior to that and never questioned. What a lot of people don't realize is Rumsfeld was the youngest Secretary of State, and he was also a Navy pilot in the Vietnam War. He was under Reagan the first term. The second term, he left and became liaison to the pharmaceutical companies. They took all of the testing of the drugs out of the health department and put it in the Defense Department. Up until Obama, he brought it back to the health department. So all of these pharmaceuticals that are going on all over the world and being recalled was that generation. He's giving health back globally because there are third world countries who are taking these drugs that are being recalled and can't sue the United States. That was them. As far as health, he brought health care back to us. W. Bush had a choice to either give $6 billion to Musharraf when he was president of Pakistan or insure 35 million children in the United States. He chose to give the money to Pakistan to secure the nuclear. You know what I'm saying? We now have health care for children. There's a lot of things that need to be done. It's not an easy job. I mean, look at him. He's aged tremendously. However, we'll see what happens. But as far as women's issues, health issues, minority issues, I think he's trying and he's pushed his way forward. I think he needs to get a little bit more aggressive and stop trying to appease everybody. But since it's the second term, he doesn't have to appease anybody. He needs to step up. So now let's give him this term to see where he goes with that.
Yeah, I want to ask one more question about relationship between the president and black community, because it's very important to clear that up with people like you. There was this speech he made to the black congressional caucus where he was saying that black people should stop complaining, stop grumbling, and stop crying. And a speech in Chicago, he also told black men and said that you should realize that what makes you a man is not the ability to make a baby, have a baby, but it is the courage to raise one.
I agree.
And following those comments, someone, a civil rights activist, Jesse Jackson, made a comment where he said that that he wished he wanted to cut Obama's, he wanted, I won't say it on TV, but he actually said Obama was talking down to black people. Do you feel that way?
Not at all. Not at all. And I think Jesse was checked on that. I know them. I don't know Obama that well. I know Jesse Jackson and his family. But Obama was right. President Obama was right. It doesn't take a man to just have a baby. You have to take care of that child. You have to nurture that child, educate that child, feed that child. Just because you're having children does not make you a man. And he was absolutely right about that. And you have to make sure that they know how to respect women and their family. And in this generation, with the disrespect on all ethnic backgrounds, white, black, Asian, there's disrespect across the board. And at being a black president, he's saying step up and handle your business and be a black man, respect your mother, your father, your children, and your family and your community. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Now, as part of the, part of the general population of America, the percentage of African Americans in America is reducing compared to other populations.
The Latin community is increasing tremendously.
Yeah. And despite the fact that a lot of Africans are coming in here, do you think, why is it that there is not much of closing of ranks between African Americans and African immigrants who came here? It's a kind of a buffer to kind of support that black community. Do you feel satisfied with the kind of relationship between Africans and African Americans?
Me personally, yes. However, there is an issue between Africans and African Americans. There always has been. Because of the taboo question of slavery and their involvement in their partnership with Europe. That is that issue. But more when you learn more about history, because Africans don't want to talk about that issue, but they were part of it, the North Atlantic slave trade. However, we've progressed more. Pan-Africanism was an African-American movement that went back to reclaim our history and our culture. My father was a part of that. Randall Robinson, you know, there were many people that were very a part of that. And I think it's really more white media that tries to play on that because there's a lot of Caribbean, African, and African-American and African bonding and joining together. I don't think it's as bad as most people think because I've been at the United Nations. I've been dealing with the North Atlantic slave trade and the Durban Review since 2005. And the African diaspora, I'm an African-American contingent. Then there's Afro-Euros, Afro-Asians, and we come together in dialogue. So the dialogue is there and the movement is there and it's becoming stronger and stronger. And the problem isn't as bad as what white media may put out there because it's just not. I've been dealing with it for a long time. When I go abroad, how I am embraced is overwhelming, more so than I think most of it is in this country. Is in the United States, not outside the United States.
That's why I want to ask, you know, like the period of Marcus Garvey when he was here and when he was able to bring together black people, can that period ever come back? Do you think that could be
It's
a kind
just
of
in different, it is here, it's just in different groups. It's expanded because now there are Afro-Euros involved, there are Afro-Asians involved. Before it was just African-American and Caribbean. Now it's a global issue of African diaspora. You know, most people don't know 2011 was the International Year of People of African Descent. The UN has International Year of, you know, the elephant, this, that, you know, but for some reason, we had a really lame representative in the United Nations, Susan Rice, and didn't promote it at all. Didn't. She did a little hip-hop thing, that was it. And it was 12 months to promote the International Year of People of African Descent, and most people, when I spoke, didn't even know that was the year, that the UN, but your representative has to do that, and she did not, as the first African-American representative at the UN. So there are a lot of groups that are still doing this, but really, it's just not blasted out in the media, but there are so many organizations that are pushing it. I mean, I have faith, hope, and I'm blessed that I'm part of that movement, and I'm very encouraged and enlightened.
Now, let me read you some of the words from your father.
Okay.
He said, they call us extremists, but if it were not for extremists, the white man would have ignored the moderates. He also said that I want Dr. King to know that I didn't come to Selma to make his job difficult. I really did not think I could make it easier. He's saying that by going there, he thought he would make it easier. He also said that I would say nothing against him, which is he was talking about Dr. King. And at one time, the whites in the United States called him a racist, an extremist, and a communist. Then the black Muslims came along, and the whites thanked the Lord that they have Martin Luther King. It's been universally said that your father helped Dr. King to become who he became. My question is there any acknowledgement in the lifetime of Dr. King that your father was complementary to the struggle that he fought. And what kind of relationship do your family now have with the family of Dr. King?
Oh, okay. A very good one. If you see a triangle, say my father was on the left, Martin was on the right, but the point right here is where they were going. In the middle, all of their followers and supporters were the same people. They were the same: Harry Belafonte, Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee, C.D. Portier, Percy Sutton, yada, yada, yada. My father had more African international. Martin had more Euro and white American, but the core support was the same. When my father went to visit him in Selma, Alabama, when he was in jail, the only reason why they didn't meet was because my father was either traveling in Africa or the Middle East, or he was in jail, Martin was in jail, or doing something. And they finally, my father went down there to see him when he was arrested, and they blocked him. The government blocked him. The state troopers, the police blocked him. So their supporters in the middle had a meeting with my mother, my father, and Coretta King, and then she passed on a message and a letter to Martin, and everything was fine. But that was the only way they could meet. Then they met again in D.C. when my father was addressing Congress before he went to the United Nations to talk about the human rights violations that the government did against black and brown and yellow people. And they told him to go out the back door. My father said, "I'm not going out the back door, I'm going out the door I came in." And he bumped into Martin Luther King. And that's the famous picture of them shaking hands, the actual first time they first met. But there was never any blocking. The families got along very well. Coretta was my auntie. There was another woman that people don't mention, Merle Evers Williams, who was Medgar Evers' widow, who there wouldn't be a Martin if it wasn't for Medgar Evers. All three of them were very close, and we all grew up together. So any media hoopla that says that they weren't getting along, they hated each other, they didn't like each other's crap, it's not true.
Okay, let me ask you about Farrakhan, because in 1964, he made a speech where he said that, he was talking about your father, he said that such a man as Malcolm is worthy of death. After your father was assassinated in 1965, 3 Nation of Islam members were convicted. I want to know if some people still believe that the FBI and the police were involved. I want to know whether your family have come to a resolution that this is what happened and why it happened.
FBI, CIA, it didn't just happen one day. They were trying to kill him for over a year. They couldn't get him in Africa. At the time, what is now the AU, the African Union, was the OAU at the time. He started the OAAU, Organization of African American Unity, and he was the liaison, which made him dangerous to Hoover and the government. They couldn't get him in France under de Gaulle, and they couldn't get him in England, so they got him here. But it was a long period of time. The Nation of Islam, were they involved? Absolutely. Was Farrakhan involved? Absolutely. But he was also involved with the CIA, FBI, and everybody else.
Mm. So your family have...
And we already know he did it. Like, you can't... I already said it. Yes, he was involved, period. Okay. Yes, he was, and he knows it. Okay. We know it, and everybody else who was around at that time knows it, too.
Now, your father died at 39, and a new book came out recently that said that it's called Malcolm X, a life reinvention of his life. And in the book, the author imagined what he would have been if he didn't pass away, if he wasn't killed. Now he said, let me quote what he said. He said about your father, he said, as his social vision expanded to include people of divergent nationalities and racial identities, his gentle humanism and anti-racism could have become a platform for a new kind of radical global ethnic politics. What do you think would have happened if your father had lived? And I felt like this description kind of suited what you're doing now, because you're working with international groups and you are trying to build a new... Is that what you think would have happened?
Well, Manning Marable is not basically a family friend, too. One, my mother didn't respect him as an historian and did not let him see anything. He got access to 3 of the chapters that were eliminated from the autobiography as told to Alex Haley, and he added that to there. We didn't give him access to that. He found it. And yes, that my father, I do agree with that. But I don't agree with the book that Manning Marable wrote. Anything about it. It's very disrespectful to my mother and my father. He mishmashes and uses other information from students at Columbia. So, in any case, there's another book that was written countering Manning Marable's book, but that part came from the last 3 chapters that nobody saw. So that part, do I agree with? Absolutely.
Okay, now let me ask you, because the civil rights activists of your father's time, people like Andrew Young and Jesse Jackson, some people now believe that they've cashed in. So I want to find out, how do you think about, what do you think about them? How do you think about what they've become after this period of fighting for civil rights?
Well, it's this whole generation, the past 20 years, people got complacent and comfortable. They like their house in the Hamptons or their country home or their Mercedes or their house in Westchester or their condo. It's not just those people you mentioned, it's this whole generation. You know, this whole era, this is what's been happening, and we just have to stay focused and understand where we need to go and where. They are maybe comfortable now, but how did they get to that point? And how do we do both or not do both? But we still have to realize in the 60s, we didn't have this. We couldn't be this comfortable. We should be able to have a loaf like you have a loaf, but also have integrity and consciousness. I think we need to get back to consciousness, but still be comfortable with privilege.
All right, I understand we have just 1 minute left and just one question more. I'm an African in America, and I'm a benefactor I benefited from the struggle of your father. What do your expectations from people like us who were not here during the struggle and who are now benefiting from that, the struggle? What do you expect from us, or to enjoy?
I don't expect anything. I think people should just be humane. I was just I've been to Cape Coast and Elmina and Ghana, and I recently made the 3rd trip to El Goree. I couldn't even imagine what they went through. Everybody struggled and sacrificed for us to be comfortable now, but we just have to have consciousness and make sure our children are educated and not miseducated in Hollywood fashion and understand their legacy. That's it. And, you know, read, and everything's out there.
All right. Thank you so much for coming to SaharaTV.
Okay.
That has been our interview with Malaak Shabazz,
yes,
the daughter of Malcolm X. When we come back,
and Dr. Betty Shabazz.
And Betty. When we come back, we are going to talk to Nice. So stay tuned.